Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Twin Theory podcast, brought to you by the Virtual Physiological Human Institute. In this episode, we will expand our horizons by exploring the fascinating intersection of clinical practice and computational modeling. We'll hear how digital tools transform the way we understand and treat cardiovascular conditions. I'm thrilled to announce our guest for today, Elisa Rauseo. Hi Elisa, and welcome to the Digital Twin Theory.
Hi Davide, hi everyone.
Elisa is a cardiologist and currently holds the position of Clinical Research Fellow in Cardiovascular Digital Twins at the Queen Mary University of London. So, welcome again. And the first question I would like to ask you is, you are an experienced cardiologist, but when and how did you get in touch with digital twins in healthcare?
As you mentioned, I am a cardiologist specializing in cardiovascular imaging. And the first time that I got into digital twins in medicine, it was about 2 years ago when I was doing my PhD. I was working on the application of machine learning and cardiovascular imaging to detect heart problems early and improve risk stratification. And that's when I discovered the concept of digital twin, which is basically, I would say, a replica or avatar of a patient heart. And this concept really fascinated me because I saw that it gives you the possibility to simulate how heart might respond to a specific treatment and predict outcome. And I noticed that was pretty much in line with what I was doing during my PhD, helping us personalize care. So my curiosity turned into practical experience when I started working with Dr. Caroline Roney and her team from Queen Mary University of London. And we started working on building digital twin solution for atrial fibrillation, which is a very common heart rhythm problem. And I was very excited working with her and to see how my clinical expertise, my imaging and AI background all contributed to these innovative models. And basically, that's how I got here. So starting from a spark of interest and now fully immersed in this very transformative field.
And was it for you a big leap as medical doctor to get acquainted, or to work with computer models?
That's a very difficult question because honestly, for me, it didn't feel like a big leap, to be honest, but more like a natural next step. As I mentioned, I was already using machine learning and exploring AI during my PhD. So I was pretty comfortable to use technology and data-driven approaches to support clinical decisions. I felt like digital twins offer me a new way of using data that I was already familiar with. But the real adjustment for me wasn't about technical skills, but shifting my perspective as a doctor. Normally, we focus on what we can see, so immediate clinical picture. For instance, we visit patients, we assess patients, so we examine symptoms of patient, test results, and we can see something. But with digital twins, you can explore what-if scenarios. So meaning that you can virtually testing how a patient's heart may react to a treatment before that something will happen. So it was a completely different perspective. To be honest, my background in imaging helped me because I was already used to use data and combine this data with models, but collaborating with bioengineers that did the job, I would say. So they handled the detailed modeling side whilst I was curating the clinical point of view, helped me to get used to computational model. So looking back, I would say that it was not like a giant jump, but it was more like a small, logical step forward in improving patient care.
Focusing on your current research field, on which aspect is focusing on?
Currently, I've been working in collaboration with engineers and physicists to develop digital twin solutions for two issues in cardiovascular diseases: atrial fibrillation, which is an irregular heartbeat, very common, and heart valve disease. Basically, by leveraging my imaging expertise as well as AI, I prepare data, I select clinical data from patients, from imaging and medical history. that this will be used to build the digital twins, which allow us to simulate, based on this patient data, different treatment visually. For atrial fibrillation, for instance, this means testing how specific treatment like catheter ablation, that is a specific treatment for prevent recurrence of atrial fibrillation, how is the response in each patient without performing the procedures itself. And for valve disease, for instance, this means simulate valve replacement using different techniques and different sites to predict which kind of prosthesis will work best based on specific characteristics of the patient to minimize complications and optimize the outcome of patient. As I mentioned, this is a completely collaborative research involving cardiologists and other clinicians like me, physicists, bioengineering, and even patients. So this means that it's hugely important being very collaborative if we want to really deliver personalized care.
And coming to artificial intelligence and machine learning that you mentioned before, what those two technology can actually do in the cardiology field, how they can help cardiologists?
AI, I would say, is an incredible tool and very useful in every field of medicine, but especially in cardiology. And the main advantage of AI is that it can analyze a huge amount of data that we collect from patients in a quickly and efficient way, and gathering hidden patterns that normally doctor cannot see from this data. For instance, data comes from imaging. We have tons of imaging of the heart, ECG, patient medical records, and even information that comes from wearable devices like smartwatches. What can AI do by analyzing such a huge amount of data is, for instance, detect early subtle signs of heart issues, even before patient will develop symptoms. For instance, it can analyze, there are several examples, ECG from patient, and it can predict whether this patient will develop atrial fibrillation, or it can analyze a cardiac MRI images, and it can identify early signs of heart failure or other cardiac conditions. And this is very important for cardiologists because we can plan preventative care rather than wait that the disease will develop and just treat the patients. Another exciting application, I think, is personalized care, and that it comes with a link between AI, machine learning, and digital twins. As leveraging all this data, it's possible to identify some specific characteristic of the patient and plan therapy that are tailored for this unique characteristic rather than using an approach that is available for everyone. For instance, with digital twins and AI, we can simulate how heart will respond to different treatments and how a specific heart with specific conditions perhaps can respond differently to the same treatment. So this reduces the trial and error approach by using AI. So overall, I would say there are huge application and potential in cardiology.
Sometimes there is, let's say, a time gap between research and application. So sometimes we have enormous, amazing technology, but it takes some years to really get into the medical practice and having them available to the patient on the everyday care. So are there already applications of AI or machine learning already available for the general public?
Yeah, AI has become on hype recently, but at the same time, I think has become also reality because there are several applications that we already see in day-to-day practice. For instance, the very first application of AI is allowing to perform automated tasks like when, for instance, we analyze cardiac MRI and we contour the cardiac chamber. This is normally done with the AI tool in an automated way, which helps to speed up our clinical workflow and make also the measurements more precise, just minimize the variability that can happen because we are human beings. And this is something that is already done and very widespread. There are several other applications that has become more common now, like for instance, I mentioned before the ECG. So there are some machine learning algorithms that allow to analyze the ECG and try to identify some markers that can predict risk for atrial fibrillation, or that can be done also with a stethoscope that can, for instance, predict the risk of developing heart failure in patients. And there are many other machine learning tools that can be applied to early recognize signs of lung cancer on a chest X-ray, or can be applied to cardiac CT to recognize early signs of other cancer. And so I think it really makes the difference, and it has become completely widespread in medicine. But of course, there are also some reluctancy among clinicians.
Exactly, speaking about reluctancy, how open or ready is the category of medical doctors and cardiologists in particular to the use of digital twins or AI in their practice?
Right now, to be honest, there's still quite a lot of reluctance among cardiologists, especially to fully adopt digital twins in everyday clinical practice. It was the same for AI, but is less than it was before. I think just because now with ChatGPT and all these generative AI tools that has become so widespread, everybody has become more used to the concept of AI. So there is less reluctancy per se in AI. Digital twins, however, is still a mystery for many doctors. And the main reason of this reluctancy is that the concept itself seems very abstract or virtual, as I would say, as many doctors don't understand the impact of this concept or how it works. In my opinion, to overcome this is essential for doctors and engineers to work together. And clinicians need to be involved from the start. So they need to help to shape the digital twin models so that this model can address proper clinical questions and use realistic patient data. In this way, working together, clinicians can understand how it works, are more in control, and can also appreciate how this model can directly have an impact, so improve patient care or predict treatment outcome. So I think this can be helpful. At the same time, there is also a learning curve, I would say. Whilst younger doctors, they are typically more ease with new technology, I think they tend to embrace digital twins more easily and quickly. On the other hand, more experienced clinicians instead tend to be more cautious, and they want to wait for stronger evidence that these digital twins can really make the difference, can be really effective and make their work easier. So I think it's important to work step by step, try to validate this model involving clinicians, and this will help in the end to improve acceptance, but this takes time.
There is a generation issue, of course, but in your opinion, would it help to have, for instance, in clinical schools or at university, courses or pathways that introduce the medical doctors to such new technologies? And if you already know that some of them already exist?
Yeah, I think you made a very good point. I think it's mandatory now because society has changed. Technology is an important aspect of our life. And at the medical school, we studied statistics model because it's important. These help you to understand the data from research and also to assess whether what you have been reading is really correct or not and apply to your day-to-day life because it's science, And I think that machine learning is an extension of this statistics tool, and digital twins with computational modeling is a sort of next step towards developing personalized treatment. And I think it's very important that schools, medical schools in particular, need to have this specific pathway to whoever wants to dedicate more time to this field, but at the same time give a sort of overview of how these tools work, what they can give to you, and how to assess whether they've been performing well or not. So I think it's important, and we need to change the way that teaching medicine is delivered at the university.
And how do you see your role in the middle or sort of a bridge between computer models and the clinical practice, and also towards the general category of cardiologists, your role as working on cutting-edge technological applications of in silico medicine?
I see my role as a sort of connector between two different worlds, which is clinical practice and AI computational modeling. So my position allows me, from one side, to help clinicians to better understand and embrace these new technologies, and just warning them that it's not like evil, but it can really help us. And at the same time, guiding engineers and researchers to develop models that truly answer relevant clinical questions. And I don't think that all doctors need to know deeply how AI and computational modeling works from a technical point of view. But what I strongly believe is that we all need to stay open-minded and flexible as technology advances. And that is the only way to see AI and digital twins not like something that can replace us, but rather like a tools that can amplify our abilities and help us provide better care. So me, like many other doctors that are working at the interface, I would say, of AI and clinical practice, I think we need to address and help addressing the issues related to adopting new technology, navigate through these concerns, and ensuring that AI and digital twins are used effectively, responsibly, safely, and first of all, that they are clinically relevant.
And when you work on the model and you make the predictions on how, for instance, a certain valve would work, what are the things that you look for?
First of all, it's important to match everything with clinical knowledge. So I think it's not only looking at some metrics that comes from the modeling per se that indicate whether the models is working or not, but is linking these metrics and making them sense with clinical knowledge. I think that is the key. Otherwise, we have been building very sophisticated models with very complex metrics, but they don't make sense. So we need to make everything sense, matching with existing clinical knowledge.
And could computer models or digital twins also help from the surgical side, so to give indications to the surgeon who is going to actually do the operation to, for instance, use a technique rather than another?
Definitely. In fact, this is one of the digital twins application that is already there. So there are some manufacturers that give the opportunity to play virtually with valve or any other devices, allowing the surgeons to play with them and to just virtually create the situation where they will do the surgery to minimize complication and to avoid that there will be some events that are unexpected.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Elisa Rauseo, for being our guest for this episode. We hope to have you again on the Digital Twin Theory podcast. And thank also to all our listeners. And we will hear each other next month. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.